Hello, welcome to RMU Live. I'm Isabella Harris.
And I am Brett McGulick.
Following Tuesday's debate, former President Trump has announced that he is not in favor of a third debate for now. The ex-president said he doesn't need a rematch because he won Tuesday night's debate. Trump remarks, "Because we've done two debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate."
This past Tuesday night, the first debate between former President Trump and Vice President Harris took place in the city of brotherly love. And to say that people tuned in would be an understatement. An estimated 67.1 million viewers tuned in across 17 different networks on Tuesday night, easily surpassing the previous debate, which clocked 51 million viewers. Vice President Harris has agreed to a round two between her and the former president, stating, "This was fun, let's do it again in October." However, the Republican candidate obviously does not feel the same way.
Tuesday night's debate with former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris left many in question for the nation's future. Cynthia Sabatini, a Reagan Republican from Delaware County, stated how she thought Kamala was a good debater but needed to answer questions more on point. A winery owner in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, too, stating how Harris needed to be more specific in an agreement amongst voters, that Trump was also off his game. We will wait to see if the two will do another debate in the future, although Trump denied.
As it turns out, one of the biggest stories the former president touched on is actually true. 27-year-old Alexis Farrell is facing charges after Canton police reported that she killed and ate a cat. This is not the first incident of this, however. Springfield natives also report on social media and claimed a case of a Haitian immigrant eating people's pets.
Both presidential candidates stood together at the 9/11 memorial in honor of the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris, alongside New York City Mayor Bloomberg and President Biden, were seen showing respect to the lives lost on that fateful day. The two candidates resembled unity, observing a moment of silence at Ground Zero in Manhattan on Tuesday.
Tragedy struck in Gaza this past Wednesday. An Israeli airstrike on United Nations school-turned-shelter killed at least 18 people, including 6 UN staff members. The Israel Defense Forces confirmed that the Israeli Air Force, quote, conducted a precise airstrike on terrorists operating inside the school compound. The shelter has an estimated 12,000 displaced people, including women and children. This is the 5th time the shelter has been targeted since October 7th. Quote, "What's happening in Gaza is totally unacceptable," UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in a post on X.
A Russian cargo ship was suspected of carrying Iranian missiles for Moscow's war against Ukraine. The ship was seen in a Russian port off the Caspian Sea less than a week ago. The vessel, identified by satellite imagery, was previously in the port of Iranian in Murbrad on August 29th. Many say the topic is likely to come up at President Joe Biden's meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Washington this Friday.
In a dramatic rescue session, Malaysian authorities rescued 402 children from horrific living conditions in 20 different welfare homes on Wednesday. The children aged 1 to 17 facing severe abuse in the form of sexual exploitation as well as physical harm. The raids were conducted after allegations of child abandonment, deviant teachings, and sexual assault in the homes. As the children were being rescued, authorities arrested 171 suspects, including religious caretakers and teachers.
Former Peruvian President Alberto Fujimori has died at the age of 86. Fujimori ruled Peru from 1980 to 2000. Wednesday night, although Fujimori considered a divisive figure in his country, he was also an authoritarian leader that used security forces to crack down on his opponents. He was also convicted of many human rights violations and corruptions. His daughter, Kyoto Fujimori, wrote on X, "After a long battle with cancer, our father, Albert Fujimori, has departed to meet the Lord."
Peaceful protests for fallen activist Justin Robinson turned violent. Many gathered around the Metropolitan Police Department in Southeast D.C. on Tuesday evening, calling for justice for the 26-year-old who stood against gun violence. This event turned violent when protesters started throwing rocks and bottles at officers, resulting in arrests. Robinson was reportedly shot 10 times after officers surrounded his car. Body cam footage showed him possibly reaching for an officer's firearm. He later died from his injuries. Coming up, a man walking his dog surprised finding a suitcase worth $23 million. All when we come back on RMU Live.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together.
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an
to
effort.
get to know each other,
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
Mentor.
actor.
it's time we take a step forward
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
and discover
How accepting our differences
can make us
stronger.
Yeah! Sam, Elmo!
Oh, hey, Julia. You ready to play band with us? I'm gonna play my clarinet.
And Elmo's gonna play his drum. Drum loud.
Oh, well, you know what to do, Julia.
Julia knows.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music. Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Welcome back to RMU Live, almost a week after high school shooting in Georgia. Nearly a dozen districts across the western Pennsylvania region received multiple threats this week. Local retired agent and current chief of police for Robert Morris University, Jeff James, explained how there can be an uptick in threats as a response to the recent shooting in Georgia last week. Some schools' response to these threats are canceling classes Thursday and Friday. The police have ensured the districts of law enforcement increased presence throughout the school day.
Pittsburgh police found $2.3 million in a backpack on the street on Wednesday, but not in the way that you think. Officers responded to a call in Pittsburgh's Fineview neighborhood after a person found a suitcase filled with suspected narcotics. When the K-9 unit came to search the scene, they found a bag filled with 4,688 bricks of heroin, worth an estimated $2.3 million. This case still remains open. It is unclear how the suitcase ended up on the street.
A man was arrested in Bloomfield after his baby was found critically injured. Tuesday afternoon, Pittsburgh police were called for a 4-month-old boy who was unresponsive upon arriving at a hospital with visible abuse signs. Seth Williams, 28, had severely beaten his 4-year-old twins and 4-month-old son. The baby is currently in grave condition. Williams has been taken on custody for former warrants and facing aggravated assault charges against his children.
Concerns grow in North Versailles Township as another man was killed on Lincoln Highway on Wednesday evening. 18-year-old Xander Wehrman was killed when he was driving his sedan, crossed the middle of the line on the highway, and was hit by a truck. Residents are concerned because this is nowhere near the first time this has happened. One resident is quoted in saying, "We just had a motorcycle accident in this exact same spot. What was that? Maybe a month ago? Now this fatality? It's horrible," end quote.
A vehicle crashed into a building in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania on Thursday morning. The crash resulted in the vehicle overturning into the Grandview Tower condominium. The Bridgeville Police Department is asking people to stay clear of the area as they try to remove the vehicle as of now. It is unclear how many people were injured, but there are none left life-threatening injuries.
A local Pittsburgh bar on the south side will be shutting down after an officer responding to a bar fight broke his ankle. DA Zeven Sapala told Chief Investigator Rick Early that he did not give the owner of the bar a choice. He stated, quote, "We'll either close it down or he'll be shut down," end quote. For several years, the city police has struggled with manpower issues. Since May, the police have been called to the bar 11 times for fights or to solve other problems.
NBC News is suing Butler County in an effort to gain 911 calls from the assassination attempt on former President Trump. NBC submitted a right-to-know basis. Butler County denied the request, arguing the recordings are a part of an ongoing criminal investigation. Pennsylvania's Office Open Record will determine the final call on releasing the records.
Pitt alumni Jim Schmidt passed away on Wednesday. Jim Schmidt was a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, being the defensive leader for the Detroit Lions, and was selected for the Pro Bowl 10 straight years between the years of 1955 and 1964. Schmidt was the first member of the Pitt football organization to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1973. Hall of Fame President Jim Porter stated Joe Schmidt played in the golden era of football linebackers in the NFL, and many of his peers considered him the toughest opponent that they faced.
Coming up after this, we will witness the first commercial spacewalk. More here on RMU Live.
The death of George Floyd, who died in police custody Monday night.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation. It's going to take more than just us, you know, as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to help us make a change, because it just can't be us.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Let's send it over to Finn Lyons for sports.
Thanks, Brett. I'm Finn Lyons here to bring you the latest Pittsburgh and Robert Morris sports news. The Pittsburgh Pirates are coming off a 4-game win streak as they return home for 3 in a row against the Kansas City Royals as the season winds down. The Pirates sit last in the National League Central, just below a .500 win percentage. First pitch is set for 6:40. To the NFL, the Steelers pulled off a win over the Falcons last week without scoring a single touchdown. The Steelers look to continue their winning ways against the Denver Broncos in the Mile High City. What was supposed to be a revenge game for Russell Wilson as he returns to the Broncos after being cut by the team. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson is expected not to start as Justin Fields is preparing for the starting role, as Wilson is still dealing with an injury. Kickoff is at 4:25. Continuing with football, the Pitt Panthers head home after a nail-biting win over the Cincinnati Bearcats, winning in the dying seconds as kicker Ben Stalls hit the third field goal, a 35-yarder to seal the deal. The Panthers now host West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl Saturday at 3:30. Skating our way to hockey, the Penguins are in the midst of 2 contract negotiations as the team is heavily engaged in contract talks with superstar Sidney Crosby and defenseman Marcus Pettersson. Crosby is coming off his 19th season at age 37, and questions about his ability to play have been raised by fans and management. But Crosby says, quote, "All you can do really is just each year evaluate it and go from there. I feel really good. I'm about as excited going into training camp as I was my first year. The passion and that sort of thing is still there," end quote. Each party hopes to get a deal done as soon as possible. Keeping with hockey, the PWHL recently announced the team names for the league's second season. The teams will be the Boston Fleet, the Minnesota Frost, the Montreal Victory, the New York Sirens, the Ottawa Charge, and the Toronto Scepters. Heading home to campus now as the Robert Morris football team comes off a discombobulating loss to the Edinburgh Fighting Scots, a Division II school, 23-21. The Colonials gave up a safety in the fourth quarter that ultimately lost them the game by 2 points. The Colonials look for redemption as they face the Mercyhurst Lakers on Saturday at the Joe, with kickoff being at 12. Mercyhurst took on the Robert Morris men's soccer team on Monday as they fell 1-0 as Danilo Albeo Wilson made 7 saves for the Lakers to shut out the Colonials. The Colonials look to get back on the win train as they play the Northern Kentucky Norse on Saturday at 2. The women's soccer team is coming off their second tie in a row, this time tying 1-1 against the Dartmouth Big Green. Paloma Swankler got the lone goal for the Colonials as the final team in action. The volleyball team, they finished the Chick-fil-A Robinson Classic on a 2-game losing streak. The Colonials head down to Charleston, South Carolina to participate in the Charleston Invitational. Their first matchup is against the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Finn. A 4-person crew on the civilian board of SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission unlocked their capsule and made history as the first group of non-government astronauts to conduct a spacewalk. The spacecraft could make its return this weekend, potentially in the early hours of Sunday morning. The trip was expected to last about 5 or 6 days. Now over to Mintis for the weather update.
Hello guys, my name is Mintis. Thank you, Isabella, for leading me in. Tomorrow, this is today's weather forecast. Today we have a high of 87 and a low of 60 degrees and a humidity of 48%. And then we have a 6% chance of precipitation, so very low chance. And then we go on for tomorrow's forecast. Tomorrow we got a high of 87, a low of 60 degrees, and a 53% humidity, also with a 6% chance of precipitation. So we can do all that outdoor weather type stuff, all the sports, all the fun basketball shooting, you know, all that. And then we'll go on to the 5-day weather forecast. So on Saturday, I just spoke about. So for Sunday, we also got 86 degrees, 60 degree low. On Monday, we have a 84 degree high and a 58 degree low. And then if we go on Tuesday, we have an 84 degree high and a 58 degree low. And then on Wednesday, we have an 82 degree high and a 59 degree low. So it's a bit like HOTTOGO, a little hot to go weather there. So we also have a tropical storm update of Hurricane Francine, which will be showing right behind me, if you can see that. And it has been very traumatic and lots of flooding occurring and going on. And on September 11th, Francine made a landfall in Louisiana, intensifying up to a Category 2 hurricane. It could not keep up the power, so it weakened up to a tropical storm on Wednesday night. Despite the weakening Francine, there are serious flood threats for eastern Louisiana, parts of coastal Mississippi, as heavy rains up to 8 inches will continue to pour down upon the region through today. 350 structures have already been flooded with continued flood emergency efforts and water rescues throughout Louisiana. Now we're going to go back, take it back to the desk.
Coming up after this, we will look at a new dining on campus.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Looking for something new to eat and drink on campus? Saxby's got you covered. Earlier this week, Saxby's grand opening took place in the Wheatley Center. Let's take a look back on the special day.
This building opened, I think, 2012 is what I remember, what I think is correct. And from the beginning, this space was a gathering space for faculty, for staff. It had food. When I was the dean of the School of Business, I used to walk up the hill and grab some food here. So it just warms my heart to be able to have something back here where everyone can continue to gather.
Saxby's is actually an education company, sort of disguised as a coffee company. And our mission at Saxby's is to make life better. We do that by empowering and supporting the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs through experiential learning. This absolutely gorgeous cafe that we're in today is going to serve award-winning cold brew, an incredibly delicious variety of grilled cheese and breakfast burritos. But far more important than all of that is that this business here is going to be exclusively run by RMU students.
If I had to go back to that tabling where I decided to apply to be the student CEO of Saxby's, I wouldn't have done anything but sit there and watch that girl, because she didn't know how much she would learn, how much she would grow in the past few months, and how much I'm going to grow, and how much of a different trajectory I feel that my personal and professional development will be in after this experience. If you guys ever want to do it, please talk to me, because this is probably the best decision I made for myself and for my college career. But to sum it up, in the words of Tucci, God bless America, God bless RMU, and let's drink some cold brew.
What another great food option for RMU. Friday the 13th has always been stamped as a bad luck superstition in the Western culture. Charles Pantini traces the concept throughout the cursed day back in the Norse mythology. When Loki, the god of mischief, crashed into the banquet of Valhalla, the number of gods in attendance were 13. Fast forward into the 1980s, when Jason Voorhees in the horror film Friday the 13th ensured the notoriety.
Thank you for tuning into RMU Live. From upstairs and downstairs, we will see you again next week.